wisdom, generating Native American philosophy from indigenous cultures. And the other is The Ethical Psychic, came out some years previous. And I do want to acknowledge we are on sacred ground for Tongva and Ahatchemam nations. And it's a privilege to be here to talk about Native American philosophy. Dr. Jennifer Lisa Vess, PhD, Miccosukee Seminole, mixed blood, is a retired associate professor of philosophy. She earned her bachelor's degree in physics from Hampshire College, her master's in history from Howard University, and her PhD in ethnic studies and philosophy at University of California, Berkeley. She introduced Native American philosophy into the philosophy curriculum at universities and has devoted decades of fighting for the inclusion of Native American and African philosophy in the canon. And just a little more on the spiritual background. Spiritually Vest is a medical intuitive of an Akashic Records reader, a certified as quantum healing hypnosis technique practitioner and master Reiki practitioner, and has been trained in traditions of African American Hoodoo, Native American Sweat Lodge, Jamaican Revivalism, Trinidadian Shango, and spiritualism from community elders. So thank you, Dr. Vest.
Okay. I can't quite get this reverse. Can you put it? Giantamo, greetings. In the tribe of my grandmother, the Seminole tribe of Florida, people used to be organized into white towns and red towns, peace towns and war towns. This was also true of many tribes in the Southeast. War was not the norm, and red towns held the warriors who were prepared to defend the people if necessary. War chiefs were chosen by councils of women, and war could not be declared by men without the consent of the women. There was balance. Historically, in the United States, mainstream conversations about peace have taken two major forms. U.S. leaders have spoken about peace as, one, the absence of war, and two, as the absence of resistance to oppression. We need to rethink these conceptions of peace if we want to have true peace in our country. I've been invited to talk about peace from an indigenous spiritual perspective. There are two relevant indigenous spiritual themes that recur across tribes. Thinking about these themes might help us to reconceptualize peace in such a way that it can be applied to the times that we find ourselves living in, for our country is not currently at peace. The two themes we can consider are the following. One, all life is interconnected, all life is one. And two, we must strive in all things for balance. Black Elk, a famous Sioux spiritual leader, had the following to say about peace. What is life? It is the flash of a firefly in the night. It is the breath of a buffalo in the wintertime. It is the little shadow which runs across the grass and loses itself in the sunset. The true peace, the first peace, which is the most important, is that which comes within the souls of people when they realize their relationship, their oneness with the universe and all its powers. And when they realize that at the center of the universe dwells Wankantanka, the Great Spirit, and that this center is really everywhere. It is within each of us. This is the real peace, and the others are but reflections of this. He goes on to say, the second peace is that which is made between two individuals, and the third is that which is made between two nations. But above all, you should understand that there can never be peace between nations until there is known that true peace, which is, as I have often said, within the souls of men. In Black Elk's understanding, peace begins in our understanding of our place in the cosmos. We must recall that we are all related. We are all one. We are all reflections of that Great Spirit. And when we truly understand this, we can know peace within ourselves. And once we understand our interconnectedness and establish peace within ourselves, only then can we begin to have peace with other people. And then that societal peace then makes peace between nations possible. When we see ourselves in each other, when we recognize that we are all interrelated and interdependent, we can find peace in ourselves and also among ourselves in society. According to Jack Forbes, a Powhatan Lenape philosopher, perhaps the most important aspect of indigenous cosmic visions is the conception of creation as a living process, resulting in a living universe in which a kinship exists between all things. Thus, the creators are our family, our grandparents or parents, and all other creations are children who of necessity are also our relations. Many tribes talk about our original instructions. Creator gave us instructions on how to live. Vicky Downey, a Pueblo elder, explains that in the beginning were the instructions. We were to have compassion for one another, to live and work together, to depend on each other for support. We were told we were all related and interconnected with each other. This interconnectedness also implies equality. It implies respect. It implies responsibility for one another. In these original instructions, one Cherokee elder recounts that he was taught, everything that happens to one of us happens to all of us. The Great One connected us all to elemental energy itself. If we hurt another, we hurt ourselves. Every young Cherokee learns that everybody is our brother and sister. Anyone who thinks they can survive alone will not survive. We are here today as American Indians because we are families and tribes, he said, and everything we do affects our relations and the survival of our species. We are all connected to our ancestors in spirit and in our physical being within ourselves. Peace is not a function of soldiers, of nations, of governments, of warriors. Peace is our responsibility. Each of us, all of us. It is how we see ourselves in relation to other selves. Now let us look at the 6 nations of the Iroquois, also known as the Haudenosaunee. They created a great law of peace. And this great law of peace was an inspiration for our own Constitution. They created a League of Nations, 6 nations, and they came together and agreed never to fight again. And within this great law of peace, there are lots of instructions, but I just want to share some instructions they gave about leadership. What does leadership look like when you are trying to create peace? And this is directly from the law. The chiefs of the League of 5 Nations shall be mentors of the people for all time. The thickness of their skin shall be 7 spans, which is to say that they shall be proof against anger, offensive action, and criticism. Their hearts shall be full of peace and goodwill, and their minds filled with a yearning for the welfare of the people of the League. With endless patience, they shall carry out their duty. Their firmness shall be tempered with a tenderness for the people. Neither anger nor fury shall find lodging in their minds, and all their words and actions shall be marked by calm deliberation. This League of Nations and Great Law of Peace was created centuries before our own Constitution. In the history of U.S.-Indian relations, it was only after more than 100 years of fighting that the U.S. held their first Indian Peace Conference. Their sole goal was to stop indigenous resistance against conquest and removal. But peace is not the absence of fighting. It is not the acquiescence of your perceived enemies. In indigenous contexts, peace after a conflict requires justice. Restorative justice is to put things back in balance. What has been broken now is fixed. So the white towns negotiate the peace. The warriors do not. There must be balance. The mind attuned to war is not the mind attuned to peace. In the eastern tribes throughout the eastern seaboard, only those who created life could make decisions about sacrificing life. Wars could only be declared with the permission of the women. Balance. I want to turn now to an indigenous African concept, which is similar, Ubuntu. Archbishop Desmond Tutu referred to this concept when he was working at the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, helping to bring justice to South Africa. In the Ubuntu philosophy, there is the belief that I am because you are. The idea is that I am a person through other people. My existence depends on everybody else. We also have in Yoruba the idea that the peace of mind of a tree is equal to that of the bird. And so we can't have decisions. You think about the bird might have decisions that they want to make about the tree. But if they make those decisions, they might negatively impact themselves as well as the tree. But we have to consider both the bird in the tree and the tree with the bird. And finally, we have this idea from African American justice movements, from Reverend King, of the idea that we must have justice in order to have peace. So Reverend King was the first one that said in 1967, there can be no justice without peace, and there can be no peace without justice. True peace, King said, is not merely the absence of tension, it is the presence of justice. And we heard the same thing from Pope Paul VI in 1972 when he said, if you want peace, work for justice. I think that sometimes we think we can have one without the other, in the same way that we sometimes think we can focus on ourselves and not think of the greater whole. But indigenous ideas of balance and interconnectedness require us to always be thinking of how things relate and to always be putting ourselves in this larger context. I wanted to say something that comes from my own experience as a healer and a mystic. You know, I received guidance from guides, and I asked them, you know, what should I talk about today beyond what I've already spoken about? And they said to make sure to remind people about the importance of purpose. This is another central theme in many indigenous traditions, the idea that each of us is born with a purpose. And when we are all living our purpose, everybody benefits. Everybody has their role, everybody has their job to do. And it's when people forget their purpose that things go awry, that things get out of balance. And it's not just humans that have a purpose, you know, the plants have a purpose, the animals, the rocks even have a purpose. And everything that happens to us has a purpose. In indigenous spiritual traditions, we don't have hierarchies, we don't have typically leaders, we don't have people that we look to tell us how to live our lives. We don't have structures, we don't have buildings you have to go into to pray. But what we mostly believe in is vision. The people who are respected, people like Black Elk, the reason he was respected is because he had a vision. And the vision he had, he shared with the community. Each one of us is a mystic. Each one of us has the ability to receive a vision. You don't have to be a special kind of person. You don't have to be anointed in that role. But each one of us can have a vision. And when we take that vision and we share it with our community, then the whole community benefits from our vision. Each one of us can have a vision of peace. And our visions will all be different, because there is no expectation that we have the same visions. Only that we each take our visions and we come together at the table and we share our visions in a sentiment of mutual respect and understanding. We say, your vision is just as important as my vision. No matter what tribe you're from, what clan, what religion, what race, what country, we all have a vision. And when we come together at the table and we share our visions, that is when we will be able to create peace. Thank you.